Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Instrumentation sync on the 26th of March 2024. Danuta, you have the first topic today. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm just opening up my spreadsheet. Sorry, I had everything closed. So I just give me a second. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the feature instrumentation rate currently that we have. Just to give some history and context, we saw that only about 50% of premium features were instrumented. So what I did was went and looked at individual releases for the last couple of releases, especially since we released internal events, to see if there is more feature instrumentation since then. Um, and this sheet that's here is specifically for 16.10. For 16.10, so this is the metrics and events that is instrumented by stage and group. And currently you'll see about I think this is the total metrics. So this, you have what, four in create, 7 in growth. And I'm also tracking the number of merge requests to get an idea of how many features are released per stage and group. So like you say, there are very few merge requests. So, and on an average, however, we have about 35 features released every milestone. Um, and if you look at 16.10, so these are all the features that are marked for a release for a release post. And so none of these features currently map to the metrics and events that are instrumented within internal events 16.10. So what I see is that the metrics or events that were instrumented in 16.10 relate to older releases. So what we're seeing is instrumentations happening as an afterthought after the release and not at the time of release, and it's not being planned at the time of release. And what's also hard here is the mapping of the data itself. Like there's no way to directly map individual features to the metrics and events that are instrumented. And one of the things that we want to improve is feature instrumentation rates for across different sections and groups every release. So if we want to continue to track that and improve that, I think one of the key things that we would have to do is record feature names somehow when we are allowing for event instrumentation and metric instrumentation. And the other thing that I'm also doing is talking to different PMs, like the releases that are marked green here. These all relate to new features. So ideally, we should have instrumentation for them in place, and especially with self-managed, unless they upgrade to a newer version, we don't have data, and we tend to lose the data. It's not done at the time of release, so it's critical to have them in place. But unfortunately, at least for 16.10, we at the time that I looked at this data, I think it was last week. Yeah, I don't see any instrumentation, and I think that's something that as a group we will have to push. I'm seeing what we can do from the product management side, probably have something like a state of data issue that we can roll out to product managers to kind of track it and kind of highlight how much instrumentation is happening across the different groups. But if the team has any other ideas or ways to take this forward, it'd be really nice to hear them and collaborate on it.
I want to just quickly add on that because that might not be immediately obvious. So the features, the names of the features and so on, that's taken from the features YAML file, correct?
Yeah, so this one is just from our issues. So these titles here, so these are just titles of issues that have a release post item, the sheet that you're seeing. The features.yaml file does have titles of the features itself. Ideally, I think this is what we would, the title of the feature would be nice to map to the event or metric so that we can tie it to the feature.yaml file. because that has the most up-to-date list of the features that are currently active.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that there's I think there's an issue already that at least where we started discussing, right, Tanuja, about kind of how to increase this and also how to track it, because like you said, we don't have a single source of truth of mapping between a feature and a metric or event right now. We only have the mapping to a group. But there's kind of one level missing, or potentially even, I mean, if we have the feature mapping, I guess that also ties back at least to a feature category then.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. As long as we have a feature mapping, then we can always, tie it to the category and other things. Yeah.
So for feature mapping, would it be possible to get it automatically by grabbing the MR that added a metric and then going to the issue linked to the given MR? Is
Yeah.
this feature or?
I don't. I don't know how. If there is like a straightforward way that feature.yaml gets populated, and if that would be tied to a particular issue. So that's the challenging part. So I don't know. I guess some of the work would have to be manual. I don't know if there is if there is any way it automatically links to current issues and emas the feature titles and events and metrics currently. Even through I don't know. I think it'd be really hard to do it through the MR link. But yeah, is what my understanding is from looking at the data. But if there are, I don't know if I'm missing something there. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the comment from Basti that we define features as things listed in this file.
Yeah, and the file also lives in the handbook or www.gitlab.com repository. So my understanding is that it's like updated individually, probably mostly by product managers. And there's no link back to a specific implementation MR. So the features.yaml always just links back to a docs page and maybe gives a description and so on of the feature, but doesn't give any MR back to when or where was this implemented. My assumption would also be that normally or oftentimes some of these features might be implemented across multiple MRs. So it's not necessarily that there's just a single MR being linked.
Yeah. I think what would be valuable is like if I don't think it's as important to have historic data in there as it is to have that going forward, or maybe it would be valuable, but it's okay if we don't have historic data in there. But it'd be really valuable even to have it going forward, to have that added in as new features get created, because we don't have a lot of feature instrumentation currently. So as we increase instrumentation rates and as we are encouraging more and more teams to instrument more of their features, I guess now is the right time to have that in. So at least we have data going forward, even if it is really difficult to map the older data.
Okay, so this means that potentially in the future, we would like to have the feature listed in the metric definition files.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's also to an extent a implementation decision of, I mean, in theory, you could also turn it around and change the features.yaml to link to a specific metric or a bunch of metrics. Probably, I would say that what you just said, Miha, makes more sense to have it in the metric definition, because that's also where we have more ability to kind of test for things and make sure only valid groups, well, features and so on get added. But yeah, I think that's something that we can discuss. But definitely the fact that we don't really have a single source of truth yet is potentially problematic. I also remember that the customer success team, there were multiple efforts around finding features that are good representations or metrics that are good representations for certain features when they were looking at health score indicators and so on. That was also kind of a limitation that they were, for example, using our metrics dictionary, but oftentimes metrics are not defined that clearly. The names can be somewhat hard to read, the key paths. And so having a direct mapping where the group, like a specific group, says, okay, this metric is at least somewhat responsible for a certain feature. That's, I think, important. I think that, but there's still a lot of things that we also need to discuss around, for example, should there be a single metric that represents a certain feature, or should there be rather multiple, or can both be the case, or all these things we still need to discuss together with all the stakeholders.
So I also wanted to ask, what is the motivation for adding this? So you mentioned this thing with customer success, Basti, that maybe they want to know which parts of GitLab are used by clients. Is this like our main motivation, or is there also some other reasons why we want to have this covered?
Yeah, I think that is one of the motivations. Customers want to see what features is being used in their org, and currently we don't have a lot of features instrumented. So even if that data were to be available through service ping, or in the future if we made this data available for our .com customers, if we don't have features instrumented, then we don't have that data at all. And also the push to make more database decisions on the product side. Previously, I think because the rate at which GitLab grew, probably instrumentation was not given as much as priority, and now we have the systems that really simplifies instrumentation, and more and more products and features should be using it to kind of instrument their features and have that data to make database decisions. There's definitely an interest on the product side to have that data, but also previously there was an issue of setting aside capacity for instrumentation and things like that. And as we are working through improving our ease of instrumentation, that's kind of reduced, but also how do we change that behavior on the product side to push more product managers to take up instrumentation and have that data available for decision making.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
I would also actually add one more thing here, and that's even the claim to say, yeah, we don't have a lot of instrumentation, or not that we don't have a lot of instrumentation, that we don't have a lot of features instrumented, is something that right now required a lot of manual work by Tanuja to create this the sheet that we're looking at, and can be potentially disputed by a PM or someone at a specific group, right? They could say, okay, but no, look over there, we have a few metrics that you might have missed or something, because there is no single source of truth that's agreed upon in the company, which gives you the mapping which tells you, like, this is how many features we have generally instrumented, or this is how many of the new features have instrumentation. Right now, this is kind of a Google sheet that Tanuja created, but in theory, again, the individual product managers or teams would maybe potentially have more knowledge and see things that aren't there, and it's also not. So it's not easy for everyone to agree on how much instrumentation do we actually have. It's a claim that's likely true, but it's not something that we can base on that data that much. And so I guess to be also a what's it called, a role model when it comes to making data-driven decisions, we also need to kind of make sure that we have the data around how much is our stuff being used, or like how much is instrumentation being used, how much are features being instrumented, to then use that to change behaviors, like Tanuja said. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Basti. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I think we can move on, I guess. So I wanted to just give you a short FYI because I don't think everyone is aware of that. There is a working group now being formed on aligning analytics architecture at GitLab. That's mainly because with the introduction of product analytics, and also the licensing issues around Snowplow and a bunch of other themes that were brought up, there's concerns around the complexity of the architectural landscape when it comes to analytics architecture, and also where we want to kind of grow that in the future. The working group is meant to align this across the data team's side, our side, but also involving, for example, product analytics and other groups at GitLab that collect or use analytics like data. And the idea is to push forward and create alignment around the infrastructure so that we have more of a plan of what are trade-offs that we are willing to take, and make sure that everyone knows the future plans for the infrastructure and where we want to iterate towards. This is right now being created. Feel free to check out the MR. For now, we've decided that there's only me gonna be in there from the analytics instrumentation side, because we also have Dennis from product analytics in there, who knows quite a bit about our infrastructure and also the product analytics infrastructure, to keep the number of people small overall. But yeah, let me know if you're interested in this, and I can also share more details about it as it's ongoing.
Yeah, just one comment from my side. Thank you, Basti. From data this side, we try to gather all information actually because no one knows how data landscape or data ecosystem looks like now in detail. So if you're interested, everything what we did is in product data landscape and also charts, and also it will help us a lot to understand actually what the requirements are. Is there any overlapping and misunderstanding? So yeah, I'm also part of that working group. If you need more material, please let me know. More than happy to share with you. Just my comment on this. And also, I think I'm next. Basti, remember our discussion about how to prevent issue on Snowflake regarding the new or altered metrics, and also you proposed that roulette option to assign our more team members in that roulette. Also, create some kind of plan. Also, need to check up with the team, and if everything is fine, I will let you know. Try to establish that process and also to include you. Just one question, I'm not aware. Is it possible to assign a group instead of name as a reviewer? You know, we have a group called GitLab Data Engineers or something, or it should be a name, because in comment, if you put /assign group, is it possible? I didn't try it, so I just asked you maybe you have more information on that, if you know what I mean, because our group contains all data engineers.
I know what you mean, but I don't know whether that's possible, and I also don't know whether my understanding would be that likely it's not. And the idea behind the reviewer roulette is normally also to call out specific people so that you have kind of like you run through the different people, and that it also makes it easy to mark yourself, for example, as on holiday, so that you don't get a review. Or for example, if you have new people joining, they might not be directly able to do such a review. And so that's why I've only seen it used with like this whole review roulette system with specific names and specific people where you add it. And it's also the same that we are doing. Like if someone gets I don't know, reviewership or maintainership on the version app or on something that we control, we add this as a role. And I think it's also nice actually to have this kind of call out in the person's YAML file in the www GitLab. It showcases what you take care of, also what roles you have.
Yeah, I fully understand. I start my thinking, establish a process in that sense. Like, okay, it should be me, Dennis, and probably 1 to more persons. But what I spoke with Dennis, he said, okay, so let's try to avoid the person. But at the end, I think it's wise, as you said, and I fully agree with you, to put a couple of people from the data team, because probably, okay, I will be in charge as a primary person. Probably Dennis can allocate it if I'm off or something, and plus 1 or 2 persons to be kind of backup option. But main idea for us is to 1 person who is on triage, and actually it's kind of, we are changing each week to handle that. But let me figure out a bit, because based on this statement, what is the best way to determine who will do that part and be part of the roulette. I want to be there, but as I said, we try to detach it from the person. So I don't know what is the best option, but let me think. If you have any proposal, please let me know.
You could, so if you don't, so just for that use case, if you don't use review roulette in any other way, you could probably try to remove yourself or add yourself only if you're doing on the triage process. So I mean, you can probably also automatically create an MR to add the reviewer XYZ role to a specific person when they're on triage, and then remove it again at when the next person comes up. The idea here really is also to remove any ambiguity for the people that are doing the MR, because it's problematic if or that create the MR. So if a developer creates an MR and it's not clear to them who of the data team is responsible, because they don't have insight into triage processes, they don't know kind of who is on call this time, that's potentially problematic. Ideally, we want to make very, very clear within an MR who are the people, like the specific people that need to check up on that MR before it can get merged. Because then you can also reach out to those people directly. For example, if it's a high priority MR and it needs to be merged quickly, you have a lot of clarity. And we want to avoid the blanket, okay, data engineers at GitLab or analytics instrumentation at GitLab statement.
Yeah, got it. Fully understand. So actually, that brings me back to our initial idea, like to put a couple of people, specific people from the data team will take care about this. Of course, okay. Then we'll figure out about that process. I just need to persuade them. It's like, okay, we should people, not a group here, because it will be more stricter in sense of timing. As you said, it will be very good if we can narrow the scope and time needed for you from our side, so we are not blocking you, right? That was the initial idea. I'm just thinking loudly. So what I need from our side is to try to establish the process, define the steps, and who will be in that roulette, and then let you know in line with you and be sure everything's confirmed from your side. Thanks for your explanation, Basti. Highly appreciate it. Just want to be clear and sure everything's doing fine on our side. Thanks for that. I'm done.
For posterity, I'm pretty sure how quick actions work with groups is that the action is performed for each member. So if you did like assign data team, it would assign all of the members of that group to that issue individually, which is just kind of bad behavior, but that's fine. I think, but all of the quick actions work that way.
Yeah, that's true. I tried that with quick actions, but as I said, as Basti said, we want to be very specific here, because usually when you tag the group, probably no one cares. Like, okay, someone else will do that. And we need to be strict on this and regarding the timeline, and to allow you to merge requests as soon as possible, not to block you. So I will figure out with my team how is the best approach to determine who will do what. Anyway, I will be volunteering anyway, so it will be there. Thanks, Sarah, for that.
All right. Then do we have any remaining questions or any other topics that are not in the sync agenda right now? If not, then we're kind of right on time. And I wish everyone a good rest of the day, however long that day is going to be. See you all around. Bye.
Thanks, Basti. Bye, everyone.